take a deep breath. And let's hear a story about John, a liar who followed his football dreams by coaching his son's team. The soft morning light filtered through the blinds of John Miller's office, casting golden stripes across the polished mahogany desk. Legal documents were stacked neatly beside his computer, waiting for his attention, but his gaze had drifted to the small football trophy sitting on the corner shelf. It was his only trophy, earned in high school, before his father had gently but firmly guided him toward law school. John ran his fingers along the smooth leather of the miniature football attached to the trophy, feeling the familiar texture that always brought a sense of peace. The scent of fresh coffee wafted through the air, mingling with the smell of old books that lined the walls of his office, creating a comforting atmosphere despite the weight of expectations he carried. Outside his window, autumn leaves danced in the gentle breeze, their russet and golden hues reminiscent of football season and the opportunities he had reluctantly left behind. He could almost hear the distant roar of crowds and feel the exhilarating rush of adrenaline that accompanied stepping onto the field, sensations that visited him only in dreams now. His law practice was successful, and he had followed in his father's distinguished footsteps as planned, but there remained a hollow space within him that even the most significant legal victories couldn't fill. John sighed deeply, his breath creating a small fog on the window as he watched children playing in the park across the street, their carefree laughter carrying faintly to his ears. His contemplation was interrupted by the gentle vibration of his phone, a message from his wife, Sarah, announcing that she was heading to the hospital. Their first child was coming earlier than expected, bringing with it a flutter of excitement that momentarily pushed aside John's nostalgic melancholy. He gathered his coat, heart pounding with anticipation, as he prepared to meet the new life that would forever change his own. Hours later, cradling his newborn son Derick in his arms, John felt an overwhelming sense of love and protection wash over him like a warm summer rain. The hospital room was quiet except for the soft beeping of monitors and the gentle breathing of his exhausted wife as she slept peacefully beside them. The subtle, sweet scent of baby powder mixed with antiseptic created an oddly comforting atmosphere. "Hello, Derick," John whispered, his voice barely audible as he traced a finger along his son's impossibly soft cheek. The baby's tiny hand reflexively grasped his father's finger, a grip surprisingly strong for something so small, creating an immediate connection that sent waves of tenderness coursing through John's body. Everything else seemed to fade into the background, unimportant compared to this perfect moment. As days turned into weeks and weeks into months, John discovered a renewed sense of purpose in fatherhood that brightened even the most tedious aspects of his legal career. Each evening, returning home from long days at the office, He would be greeted by Derick's excited squeals and enthusiastic crawling, the simple joy of which melted away the stress that had accumulated throughout the day. The soft carpet of their living room became a playground where father and son would spend hours together, building block towers only to knock them down with peals of laughter. John found himself living for these moments, the gentle weight of his son against his chest as they read bedtime stories together, the sweet smell of baby shampoo lingering in the air as they rocked slowly in the nursery chair. Time passed with the gentle rhythm of seasons changing outside their window, each bringing new developments in Derick's young life that John treasured like precious gems. The boy's first steps across the kitchen floor, arms outstretched for balance, face determined and proud, filled John's heart with a joy more profound than any he had known before, a happiness that radiated through his entire being. As Derick grew from toddler to young boy, John noticed with a mixture of surprise and delight his son's natural affinity for sports, particularly football. One crisp Saturday afternoon, while playing in the backyard, Derick threw a small plastic ball with surprising accuracy, the spiraling trajectory cutting cleanly through the autumn air. The familiar sight awakened something dormant in John's soul, a spark of recognition and possibility. That evening, after Derick had been tucked into bed, his small chest rising and falling with the deep breaths of peaceful sleep, John found himself rummaging through the attic storage. Dust particles danced in the beam of his flashlight as he located an old cardboard box labeled football. The musty scent of aged leather greeted him as he lifted the lid, revealing his old high school gear, preserved like artifacts from another life. Sitting cross-legged on the attic floor, surrounded by memories from his past, John felt a curious lightness spreading through his chest, as if a long-carried burden was beginning to lift. He ran his fingers along the worn leather of his old football, the familiar texture connecting him to a younger version of himself, one whose dreams had been set aside but perhaps not forgotten. Through the small attic window, moonlight spilled onto the floor beside him, casting everything in a gentle silver glow that seemed to whisper of new beginnings. The following weekend, John carried the weathered football to the backyard where Derick was playing, morning dew still clinging to the grass, creating tiny rainbows as sunlight filtered through the droplets. Derick's eyes widened with curiosity and excitement as his father demonstrated how to properly hold and throw the ball, his small hands eager to mimic the unfamiliar yet somehow natural movements. The sweet scent of freshly cut grass mingled with the earthy aroma of the garden nearby, creating a perfect backdrop for this moment of connection. "Like this, Dad?" Derick asked, his voice bright with concentration, as he attempted to position his fingers along the laces just as John had shown him. Each attempt brought improvement, and John felt an unexpected surge of pride watching his son's determination, a reflection perhaps of his own unrealized passion, now finding new expression through Derick's enthusiasm. Birds chirped encouragingly from nearby trees, their melody blending with the sound of laughter and gentle instruction. Those first impromptu lessons grew into a regular routine, father and son spending weekends practicing throws and catches, John sharing everything he remembered from his own brief but passionate experience with the sport. The warm afternoon sun would cast long shadows across their yard as they practiced until dusk, the golden hour light bathing everything in a warm glow that seemed to John a perfect visual representation of the happiness he felt during these precious hours. As weeks turned into months, John found himself researching football techniques and strategies in his spare time, often staying up late into the night, the soft glow of his laptop illuminating his face as he absorbed information with a hunger he hadn't felt since law school. He subscribed to sports channels, the animated voices of commentators filling their home on weekends as he and Derick watched games together, analyzing plays and discussing tactics with growing sophistication and mutual understanding. Derick's 10th birthday brought his first real football equipment, the protective gear still slightly too large for his frame, but representing a commitment that made his eyes shine with gratitude and excitement. John helped him adjust the helmet, the plastic and padding still smelling of newness, their hands working together to find the perfect fit, a collaborative effort that symbolized their growing bond through the shared love of the game. The expression on Derick's face when he looked in the mirror, fully equipped for the first time, was a moment John knew he would treasure forever. When Derick joined his first youth league team, John volunteered as an assistant coach despite his busy legal schedule, finding unexpected joy in helping not just his son, but other children develop their skills and confidence. The community field where they practiced became a sanctuary of sorts, where the pressures of John's professional life seemed to dissipate amidst the energetic shouts of children and the satisfying sound of perfectly executed plays. The cool breeze carrying the scent of nearby pine trees would ruffle through his hair as he stood on the sidelines, clipboard in hand, feeling more fulfilled than he had in years. Sarah noticed the change in her husband, how his shoulders seemed less burdened when he returned from practices, how his smile came more easily and lasted longer. "You seem more yourself lately," she observed one evening as they sat on the porch swing, gentle rhythmic creaking accompanying their conversation as they watched the sunset paint the sky in shades of pink and orange. Her hand found his, fingers intertwining with familiar comfort as they discussed possibilities neither had voiced before. As Derick entered high school and joined the football team, his natural talent, refined by years of devoted practice with his father, began to attract attention from coaches and scouts. John would sit in the bleachers during games, heart swelling with pride as he watched his son execute plays with grace and intelligence, achieving the success on the field that he himself had once dreamed about. The roar of the crowd, the bright stadium lights, and the palpable excitement in the air created an atmosphere of possibility that John found increasingly difficult to resist. One particularly significant Friday night, after Derick had scored the winning touchdown in an important game, John found himself in conversation with the head coach, discussing strategy with such insight that the coach remarked, "You know, Miller, you've got a better understanding of this game than most assistants I've worked with." The casual comment lingered in John's mind as he drove home, street lights casting intermittent glows through the car windows, illuminating possibilities that had once seemed firmly closed. That night, unable to sleep despite the lateness of the hour, John sat at the kitchen table nursing a cup of chamomile tea, its soothing aroma filling the quiet space as he contemplated the direction of his life. The gentle ticking of the wall clock provided a meditative backdrop as he weighed his successful but unfulfilling legal career against the unexpected passion that had reignited through his son's journey. Outside, a gentle rain began to fall, droplets tapping against the window in a soothing, almost encouraging rhythm. Around this time, Derick's talents earned him a scholarship to a prestigious university with an excellent football program, an achievement that filled the family with pride and joy. At the celebration dinner, surrounded by the warm glow of candles and the savory aromas of Derick's favorite foods, John raised his glass in a toast, his voice thick with emotion as he expressed not just pride in his son's accomplishments, but gratitude for the gift Derick had unknowingly given him, the reconnection to a passion he had thought lost forever. The following week, during a particularly tedious corporate case, John found his mind wandering repeatedly to football strategies rather than legal ones, the stark fluorescent lights of his office seeming suddenly harsh compared to the open sky and natural light of the football field. The polished desk that had once represented achievement now felt like a barrier, separating him from a more authentic version of himself that had begun to emerge through his involvement with Derick's football journey. The decision that had been gradually forming in his mind now crystallized with surprising clarity and certainty. That evening, after a thoughtful conversation with Sarah, who supported him with understanding and love that made his heart swell with gratitude, John began researching coaching certification programs. The soft lamplight illuminated pages of information as a sense of rightness settled over him, similar to the feeling of coming home after a long journey. Through the open window, the night air carried the distant sound of cheering from the high school stadium, where a game was in progress, the familiar noise now seeming like an invitation rather than a reminder of paths not taken. Four years later, John stood on the sidelines of a professional football field, clipboard in hand, wearing the team colors and official coaching gear that still sometimes felt surreal. The journey from corporate attorney to assistant coach for his son's professional team had been challenging but filled with a sense of purpose that made every obstacle worthwhile. The vast stadium around him hummed with pre-game energy, the atmosphere charged with anticipation and possibility that resonated deeply within him. In the locker room before games, the air thick with the scent of liniment and determination, John would catch Derick's eye across the room, exchanging small nods of mutual respect and understanding that communicated more than words ever could. Their relationship had evolved into a professional partnership enriched by their personal bond, each bringing different strengths to their shared passion. The rhythmic sound of cleats on concrete as players moved through final preparations created a percussive backdrop to these moments of quiet connection. The transition had not been without its difficulties. Learning to live with a significantly reduced income, facing skepticism from colleagues in both professions, and the intense learning curve of professional coaching had all tested John's resolve. Yet each morning as he woke naturally before his alarm, body and mind eager to begin the day's work, he felt a profound gratitude for the courage to change direction. The gentle morning light filtering through the curtains seemed brighter somehow, illuminating not just his bedroom but the rightness of his choices. Sarah had been his unwavering support throughout the transformation, her belief in him never faltering even during the most uncertain times. "You've never looked more alive," she told him one evening as they walked hand in hand along the beach near their new, more modest home, the sound of waves creating a soothing rhythm as sand shifted beneath their feet. The salt air felt cleansing in his lungs, each breath reinforcing the sense of freedom that came with living authentically. Derick's teammates, initially suspicious of nepotism, had come to respect John's knowledge and dedication, often seeking his advice both on and off the field. One young player had recently confided, "Coach, you're the reason I didn't quit last season," words that warmed John more than any legal victory ever had. The connection he formed with these young athletes brought unexpected fulfillment, their triumphs and struggles becoming part of the rich tapestry of his new professional life. During home games, John would sometimes glance up at the area of the stands where his father had once sat watching his high school games, feeling a bittersweet connection across time. Before his passing, his father had witnessed John's career change, expressing with characteristic understatement that he was glad you found your way, son. That simple acceptance had healed something deep within John, releasing him from expectations that had shaped decades of his life. Now the stadium lights seemed to shine with particular brilliance on that empty seat, as if acknowledging the completion of a circle. On particularly challenging days when strategies failed or tensions ran high, John would find a quiet moment to step onto the empty field, feeling the particular give of the turf beneath his feet and breathing in the open air. These moments of solitude brought clarity and perspective, reconnecting him to the pure love of the game that had started this journey. The vastness of the stadium around him, temporarily silent and waiting, reminded him of the potential each new day held. The team's first championship with both John and Derick involved came after 3 seasons of building and growth, the victory sweeter for the shared effort it represented. As confetti rained down in a kaleidoscope of team colors, the thunderous cheers of the crowd creating a physical vibration that could be felt through the ground. Father and son embraced in a moment of pure joy, wordlessly acknowledging the unlikely path that had brought them to this shared triumph. The bright lights caught the tears in both their eyes, transforming them into something that looked remarkably like stars. Later that night, long after the celebrations had quieted, John sat in his study surrounded by game plans and strategy boards, the trophy gleaming softly in the corner under gentle lamplight. A profound sense of contentment settled over him as he realized that the postponed dream had not been lost, but transformed into something richer than he could have imagined. The quiet ticking of the clock and the occasional distant sound of late night traffic created a peaceful backdrop for this moment of reflection. Sarah joined him, placing a gentle hand on his shoulder as she handed him a cup of herbal tea, its soothing aroma filling the room as they sat together in comfortable silence. Through the window, the night sky was clear and filled with stars, their steady light a reminder of the constancy that underlies all change. Tomorrow would bring new challenges and opportunities, but for now this moment of quiet appreciation was enough. The following season brought new players and strategies, the constant evolution of the game providing endless opportunities for growth and learning that kept John's mind engaged and spirit energized. At 53, he found himself more physically active than he had been in decades, often participating in demonstrations during practice, the familiar movements reconnecting him with his younger self in ways that brought unexpected joy. The fresh air and physical exertion brought a healthy flush to his face and a lightness to his step that made him appear years younger. His old law colleagues, initially skeptical of his career change, now sometimes called for tickets and advice on their fantasy football leagues, the conversations easy and genuine in ways they had never been during his legal years. After games, they would sometimes visit him, their designer suits looking somewhat out of place among the casual team atmosphere, but their congratulations and support entirely sincere. These reconnections brought a sense of integration to John's life journey, helping him appreciate that no experience had been wasted. On quiet Sunday mornings, John would sometimes watch Derick playing with his own young son in the backyard, teaching him the fundamentals of throwing and catching with the same patience and enthusiasm John had once shown him. The sight would fill him with a profound sense of continuity and rightness, a gentle reminder that dreams don't always follow straight lines, but can circle back in unexpected and beautiful ways. The morning sunlight filtering through leaves created patterns of light and shadow across the grass, nature's own reminder of how life's contrasts create its most beautiful moments. John's journey from reluctant attorney to fulfilled coach had taught him the value of second chances and the courage to pursue authentic happiness, lessons he now shared with young players facing their own life decisions. The greatest victory, he would tell them during moments of mentorship that had become an important part of his coaching style, is finding the courage to be who you truly are. As he spoke these words, surrounded by young men at the beginning of their own life journeys, he would feel a profound gratitude for the unexpected path that had led him to this place of wisdom and contentment.